My name's Torrance Wilson, born in Houston, Texas, born and raised here. When I grew up, I had both my parents, my mom and my dad. Although my mom was addicted to cocaine and my dad was an alcoholic. My dad, when he left my mom, he also left me as well. And so it caused me to just go deeper in the streets, which would cause me 3 different trips to Texas Department of Criminal Justice, totaling over 10 years in prison. It was my last trip. I was facing life in prison. I got a call from the chaplain that my grandmother was in ICU. And I remember the Lord clearly placing it on my heart that he wasn't going to heal her on this side of heaven's gates. It caused me to look at things differently. And I knew enough to know that if I ever wanted to see my grandmother again, that I need to get real with my faith. And so I surrendered right there in Harris County, not knowing if I would end up with this life sentence or if God would commute my sentence or what. But I was a habitual criminal facing life in prison. And by God's grace, I only received 5 years, which brings me to how I met Tre9 of Eyes on Me. I met him on the inside of Carol Vance. I remember DTS, Disciple of the Streets, was just being formed. It was still just a thought.
When I go into the prisons, I talk about DTS, Disciple of the Streets, and this family of believers that guys can be a part of and then go back and give back to their community or reach their friends, their families, their ex-gang members, those that are in the streets. And so Torrance came up to me and he said, man, when I get out, I'm gonna plug in with you. And I said, everybody says that, but most people don't, because they get out in the free world and they just kind of get consumed by the cares of life. However, Torrance was different.
When I came home, which was a couple years after that, I started working for my church early on. And so I was working a full-time job at Houston First Baptist Church, full-time ministry, and going to school. I was being pulled in all 3 of those different places, and which requires a lot of time.
And when he had that job, he had stability, but he also would share with me on the phone, like, man, I need help with my finances. I want to do more Tre. I want to serve in ministry. I want to get out there with y'all, but I just don't know how to do it right now with all this stuff going on in my life. And I said, bro, why don't you get in DTS training? And then we'll put you in the next step, which is Ambassadors Club, because I believe it'll help you.
My experience with DTS was amazing. I went in kind of knowing what to expect with the training, and I received so much more than that. I received the fellowship of a community of brothers who not only had been through some of the same things that I've been through, but understood the challenges that I faced.
So Torrance went through Disciple of the Streets training, which is 11 weeks of discipleship training and how to engage people with the gospel, how to follow up with them and begin to disciple them. He initiated and became part of the DTS family. Torrance wanted more. He wanted to level up, and I could just see it in his eyes. Finances were choking him, and he wanted freedom financially. So when he got in Ambassadors Club and Michael Douglas became his goals coach, and Michael's a financial advisor, so if anything, Michael could help him with his finances.
Ambassadors Club was huge for me because, for one, my experience was 20 years a drug dealer in Houston, and so there was no budgeting. I didn't have a budget, and so learning just basic budgeting skills and how to budget what's coming in and what's going out, and look closely at those things, like the financial piece of learning those things that my father didn't teach me.
The next thing I saw was that he wanted to get involved in ministry full time. Getting involved in ministry full time is not easy because you still got to provide for your family, in order to be able to make a living. And so he began to go through President's Club.
We have the opportunity every other month to meet with high-level executives, either that's working in Fortune 500 companies or they have their own major company, and they come and speak to us and pour into us, and it's been phenomenal.
Next thing I know, he was asking me what did I think about him stepping out and starting his own business, his own company. For me, I had started my own company in my early stages of ministry, and it funded a lot of the ministry I did early on. And then eventually I transitioned into Eyes on Me, and he was like, should I step out in faith, leave my job, and start a construction company. And I said, well, if you're going to ask me, I'm going to tell you yes, because I had to do that and I watched God move. But talk to your goals coach, talk to Dennis, talk to some other men before you make that step.
Me stepping out on faith and starting We Build Construction was a culmination of just knowing I had that support team of wise counsel around me. It helped me to step out and trust that not only was God gonna help me thrive and help my company thrive, but to know that I have actual brothers who would not only share resources with me, but also walk with me through those things that was foreign to me in business.
We thought, man, how could we take this amazing man who I meet in prison, and then now he's in the free world. He's plugged into Disciple the Streets and finished the program. He plugged into Ambassador Club and was diligent, finished the program. Plugged into President's Club and finished that track. How can we take this amazing story and have that benefit these young people who are growing up in an environment where they could end up in prison if there's not some intervention? Our mission house, our mission center in Sunnyside needed some work. It needed some remodeling, it needed some decoration, and Torrance became the person to help transform the Sunnyside Mission Center and beautify it, him and his wife. And not only did they do that, but they also brought in our youth to learn the trade of construction and interior design.
So we've been hired here at the Sunnyside Mission Center to not only come and do the work, but also teach the kids a component of construction.
And so now you have the kids being mentored by Torrance. You also have them learning a trade that they could potentially one day open their own business or one day work in the construction field. And so I think it's just a beautiful depiction of what Eyes on Me is trying to do in order to see men and women pay it forward after they benefit from our pipeline, so to speak. Here's Torrance paying it forward with the next generation, who will in turn hopefully go through that track and pay it forward with the next generation.
When ministries focus on not only helping you spiritually, but helping you launch out your dreams or live out your dreams, it's phenomenal. It's huge, and it has a huge domino effect because not only is the ministry speaking to me spiritually, but they're also concerned about my well-being financially, and I'm eternally grateful. And so it causes me to be compelled to give back.
So he's absolutely a model for what we want to see happen with every man and woman that comes through this ministry. I consider Torrance a person that is launched, and he's truly making an impact in the very culture, the very people group that he said he wanted to impact. Those who were young like him at one time, headed down a path of destruction, but ended up making the most of it, finding Christ in his life. And now he's being a disciple, an entrepreneur, and he's giving back and he's paying it forward. That's what we want to see at Eyes on Me, and that's what we see in Torrance Wilson.